Now, in all this Black Lives Matter kerfuffle, a video went viral. I'm not a great fan of the direct video response in this style, not least as it's no longer 2016, but this went so viral, in fact, the BBC referred to it and interviewed the lady in it. Yes, this was at once regarded as gospel, so I thought we would hear what she had to say and see whether it really was that marvellous.
So, I've been seeing a lot of things talking of the people making commentary.
Funny you should say that.
Interestingly enough, the ones I've noticed that have been making the commentary are wealthy black people, making the commentary about we should not be rioting, we should not be looting, we should not be tearing up our own communities. And then there's been an argument of the other side of we should be hitting them in the pocket. We should be focusing on the blackout days where we don't spend money. But, you know, I feel like we should do both.
Sorry, what? So you feel people should loot? This better be one hell of an argument.
And I feel like I support both. And I'll tell you why I support both. I support both because when you have a civil unrest like this, there are three types of people in the streets. There are the protesters, there are the rioters, and there are the looters. The protesters are there because they actually care about what is happening in the community. They want to raise their voices, and they are there strictly to protest. You have the rioters who are angry, who are anarchists, who really just want to fuck shit up, and that's what they're going to do regardless. And then you have the looters. And the looters almost exclusively are just there to do that, to loot. Now, people are like, well, what did you gain? Well, what did you get from looting? I think that as long as we're focusing on the what, we're not focusing on the why, and that's my issue with that. As long as we're focusing on what they're doing, we're not focusing on why they're doing.
Oh, another slogan, I see. It's not about that they're looting, it's about why they're looting. I feel this is an interesting way of avoiding the issue of looting. So, folks, loot. Let's not talk about that, let's talk about their being poor instead, because I find that more comfortable.
And some people are like, well, those aren't people who are legitimately angry about what's happening. Those are people who just want to get stuff. Okay, well then, let's go with that. Let's say that's what it is. Let's ask ourselves why in this country in 2020, the financial gap between poor blacks and the rest of the world is at such a distance that people feel like their only hope and only opportunity to get some of the things that we flaunt and flash in front of them all the time is to walk through a broken glass window and get it. That they are so hopeless that getting that necklace, getting that TV, getting that change, getting that bed, getting that phone, whatever it is that they're gonna get, is that in that moment when the riots happen and if they present an opportunity of looting, that's their only opportunity to get it.
So in 2020 there are poor people who cannot afford stuff. This is the insight. And no doubt the only reason they cannot afford stuff is racism, right?
We need to be questioning that why. Why are people that poor? Why are people that broke? Why are people that food insecure, that clothing insecure, that they feel like their only shot, that they are shooting their shot by walking through a broken glass window to get what they need?
Poverty is not nice. Once again, is this the great insight? I hear how you're gradually hyping yourself up like a boxer, but so far, 1/3 of the way in, what we are getting is being poor is not nice, why are people poor? Well, let's be clear, this is not about the white poor in trailer parks, right? Somehow I feel one doesn't care tuppence about them.
And then people want to talk about, well, there's plenty of people who pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and got it on their own. Why can't they do that? Let me explain to you something about economics in America. And I'm so glad that as a child, I got an opportunity to spend time at Push where they taught me this.
Oh, right. Here we're going to get a breakdown of economics, as championed by something called Push. I do hope it's not the 80s Salt and Pepper song.
Is that we must never forget that economics was the reason that black people were brought to this country. We came to do the agricultural work in the South and the textile work in the North. Do you understand that? That's what we came to do. We came to do the agricultural work in the South and the textile work in the North.
So yes, slavery was bad. But thank God for the British Industrial Revolution, right? I'd not heard about black slaves being taken to the northern states for textile work. But if that was so, then it sure meant that a British mechanised textile manufacture revolution must have made any northern textile slaves you speak of unnecessary. You're welcome, America.
Now, if I right now If I right now decided that I wanted to play Monopoly with you.
No, I don't think I'd want to. I think it's unwise to play Monopoly with people who get angry. You seem very angry. You activist types tend to be angry all the time. And let's be clear, you are an activist.
And for 400 rounds of playing Monopoly, I didn't allow you to have any money. I didn't allow you to have anything on the board. I didn't allow for you to have anything.
Yes, I get it. Slavery was bad. We're more than halfway through here, and I think the audience will rightly begin to struggle to understand just why this was deemed so outstanding that the lady needed to be on the BBC, and why on earth this thing went viral.
And then we played another 50 rounds of Monopoly, and everything that you gained and you earned while you were playing that round of Monopoly was taken from you. That was Tulsa. That was Rosewood. Those are places where we built black economic wealth, where we were self-sufficient, where we owned our stores, where we owned our property, and they burned them to the ground.
All right, they burned them to the ground. In Tulsa and in Rosewood, you say. What about the rest of the United States of America? You do realize Tulsa and Rosewood are two places. Ever heard of Jeremiah Hamilton, a 19th century black New York millionaire stockbroker? You see, you pick Tulsa and I pick him, and we're both cherry-picking. Do you see how that works? Also, just a little bit of reading on the black trading in Tulsa shows that it recovered after the attacks, but that it eventually faded when segregation ended and the black community could shop elsewhere. So the reason those businesses in Tulsa prospered was segregation. The blacks had to shop there, as they were not permitted elsewhere. Is this therefore really an example of a business model you wish to put forward? Sure, it was disgraceful that they were torched by jealous whites. But given that you began this by announcing you'd be telling us about the economics of America, well, so much to that.
So that's 450 years. So for 400 rounds of Monopoly, you don't get to play at all. Not only do you not get to play, you have to play on the behalf of the person that you're playing against. You have to play and make money and earn wealth for them, and then you have to turn it over to them.
Once again, yes, slavery was bad. How many times? Is this the argument?
So then for 50 years, you finally get a little bit and you're allowed to play. And every time that they don't like the way that you're playing, or that you're catching up, or that you're doing something to be self-sufficient, they burn your game. They burn your cards. They burn your Monopoly money.
Because Tulsa and Rosewood, the two examples you gave, two place names, across the 50 states of the United States of America. Tulsa saw thriving black businesses burn in 1921, and Rosewood was a black town which was a stopover on a railway destroyed by a white lynch mob in 1923. And what you speak of could be said to apply to the black people affected. But again, these are two places, and you're using these two places as universal examples for the entire nation.
And then, finally, at the release and the onset of that, they allow you to play and they say, okay, now you catch up. Now, at this point, the only way you're going to catch up in the game is if the person shares the wealth, correct?
Sharing the wealth has a certain ring to it, doesn't it? So, did the United States of America share the wealth with the untold numbers arriving from Europe through Ellis Island? You know, penniless Irish, Poles and Italians. Was there a welfare state to cater to these people? I think not. Sure, they did not suffer from a stronger bias against them as did blacks, but nobody was sharing their wealth with them. So I don't see why this would suddenly be the solution. And I still don't see why this means looting is all right, which is where you started out.
But what if every time you share the wealth, then there's psychological warfare against you to say, oh, you're an equal opportunity hire?
Now there's a leap. Opportunity hires. Positive discrimination is supposedly the acknowledgement of unequal opportunities. Therefore, people who on paper are not as competent get the position because they never had the same chances to excel as did others. That's the theory. But with this having been applied across the board, we have seen a noticeable drop in standards. Positive discrimination doesn't work. But having tried it and it not having worked, one should then have the fortitude to abandon it. We have all come across the opportunity hire. There is nothing as disheartening to all concerned. What was meant to be the helping hand for those of merit who are underprivileged has become the institutionalized reign of mediocrity, or worse.
So if I played 400 rounds of Monopoly with you and I had to play and give you every dime that I made, and then for 50 years, every time that I played, if you didn't like what I did, you got to burn it like they did in Tulsa and like they did in Rosewood, how can you win? How can you win?
How can you win? How very passionate. Now first, you have never given me a single penny. My own little cabal, I'm afraid, was fairly penniless itself within my own lifetime. As a small child, I was bathed in a tin bath, filled up with cold water from a bucket and boiling water from the kettle. I know what it means to have mould on the walls. Now I'm not saying this as a contest of poverty. This is not the Four Yorkshiremen sketch. I am sure you are more disadvantaged now than I am. I do not claim anything I have acquired merely to have been through merit. People need luck. More so, they need the absence of bad luck, at least for some periods in their life, else the system eats them alive. I know this, I have seen this. But I also do not owe everything to white privilege. I grew up on the European continent. I've spent the rest of my life in Britain. Believe it or not, there were no black slaves to exploit, nor have I ever burnt down a black neighbourhood. The closest I have come to Tulsa is to listen to Eric Clapton play Tulsa Time. I do not feel the slightest bit of guilt. Which is why this line of argumentation does not work with me, which is why I think it will not work with a great many others either. You have never been enslaved, you have never picked cotton for us and then had us live off the profits. This happened in a place elsewhere, in a place which lost a war, which lost all its wealth in that war, which was ruined by that war. The cotton wealth of the southern states is long gone. It's been gone for over 150 years. Just as Spain's vast wealth from her Latin American empire was lost in ceaseless wars across the European continent. The idea that it was somehow stored away in the white race is ridiculous. How can you win? Ask Barack Obama. It seemed to work for him. Ask Oprah Winfrey. It seemed to work for her. How can you win? You can win. It would be damn hard, but you can. These people have shown you that you can. They have done so within your own lifetime and within your own country. You cannot say the example was not there.
You can't win. The game is fixed. So when they say, why do you burn down the community? Why do you burn down your own neighborhood? It's not ours. We don't own anything.
Oh, you don't, do you? Let me show you one or two examples. Recognize this black owner weeping over his business being destroyed?
I don't know what we're gonna do. We worked so hard to get here. So hard.
How about this old lady?
You says Black Lives Matter. I worked here part-time. Plus, I'm a part owner of this store. You said Black Lives Matter. Why don't you choke me? I'm black. Tell him, sister. Look what you did to my store.
These people weren't in Tulsa. These people weren't in Rosewood. But they were in Minneapolis and they were in the Bronx. And they got the same treatment as did the people of Tulsa you so like to bang on about. But the people who came for them were not some jealous whites. No, they were their black neighbours. And here you are, justifying that action. Because how can you win? Well, not looting your own people's businesses might be a good start.
We don't own anything. Trevor Noah said it so beautifully last night. There's a social contract that we all have. That if you steal or if I steal, then the person who is the authority comes in and they fix the situation. But the person who fixes the situation is killing us.
Ah yes, the profound wisdom of Trevor Noah. The police are killing you, are they? You look awfully alive for someone who's being killed on a regular basis. The number of unarmed black men having been killed by police in 2019 was 10, and most of those cases are explicable. Of course, there is police brutality. We know there is. But your position is insane. We are free to loot because George Floyd. And if anyone complains, you shout Tulsa at the top of your voice, and you will claim that an argument against yours is an argument for slavery, for discrimination, and for police brutality. Except it isn't. You are just wrong.
So the social contract is broken!
What is this social contract you speak of? You must win at this game of Monopoly of which you speak, else you are entitled to pillage? Is that it? What of the people who lose in the Monopoly game when you win as ordained? Are they then entitled to do the same? Or would that be different? Staring angrily into the camera does not change anything.
And if the social contract is broken, why the fuck do I give a shit about burning the fucking Football Hall of Fame, about burning a fucking Target? You broke the contract when you killed us in the streets and didn't give a fuck.
Did that black bar owner in Minneapolis kill you in the streets? Did that black old lady who is a co-owner of that looted deli in the Bronx? No, they didn't. Neither did Target. Ask yourself why you are angry. Is it really because of slavery? Because of Tulsa? Or is it because of being trapped in an endless cycle of poverty? Trust me, burning down your own neighborhood will only serve to keep you trapped in poverty longer. How many times has it burnt over the years? How many riots has it seen? How impossible has it been made by looters and their apologists such as you for people to find investment and affordable insurance to set up businesses in your area? How about that for Let Me Tell You About Economics in America? Activists such as you only have anger. Look at you. You are seething. A raging ball of ideology if ever I have seen one.
You broke the contract when for 400 years we played your game and built your wealth.
You did not build my wealth. I am not wealthy. You have given me nothing. Not now and not 400 years ago. Nor in Tulsa or whatever other place you want to shout about. Given the prevalence of ancient slavery, we are all more or less guaranteed to have descended from slaves at some point. But nobody owes us anything.
You broke the contract when we built our wealth again on our own by our bootstraps in Tulsa, and you dropped bombs on us.
Once more, Tulsa is one place in the great and wide United States of America. If burning that was so significant, then why is your burning things now not significant? Or to put it differently, if the evil whites burned that then, and you burn this now, are we quits? Or doesn't it work that way?
When we built it in Rosewood, and you came in and you slaughtered us!
Again, all I hear is lots of anger and a victim narrative suspended from merely two nails, Tulsa and Rosewood. And I still don't see why this should permit you to loot now. Why you excuse the very thing of which you accuse.
You broke the contract, so fuck your Target! Fuck your Hall of Fame!
But it's your neighborhood, isn't it? This is your own Tulsa, and you're doing it to yourselves. Because this is different. Because push African studies and George Floyd.
Far as I'm concerned, they could burn this bitch to the ground. And it still wouldn't be enough. And they are lucky that what black people are looking for is equality and not revenge.
We are lucky, are we? Here you are announcing you want to see the world burn. You rage at us about the past. And let's be clear, Tulsa and Rosewood each happened roughly 100 years ago. A century has passed since. And yet we ought to be grateful you don't want revenge. You sound as though you want little other than revenge. And as for equality, what would that equality be? To give you everything you want? To let you win the Monopoly game? Where would you, yes, you, rightfully be? The CEO of Apple? Is that how you see yourself? Oh yes, go have a weep. After all, you need to prepare for the interview with the BBC. This is an activist, plain and simple. These people are the problem, not the solution. They are only interested in division. They have intellectualized it, justified it in toxic degree courses that do nothing else but teach their students that they are innate victims of oppression. How do you ever rise from oppression if you build your very identity on being the victim? How about you let go? How about you stop chaining yourself to the conviction that you, not merely as an individual, but as a people, are doomed to failure? How about you embrace instead some of the attitude of someone whom you do respect? You may in fact have heard his slogan before. Yes, we can. That is all from the Sabotage for now. Thank you very much, and goodbye.